Well, you know, humans aren't the only microbe farms on Earth. Any water system has its own microbiome, and we're going to show you one now. All it takes is a laser pointer and a bit of wire to see the microbial life projected on the wall. Please join special guest Kyle Krupinski in this week's Esther Gets Experimental.
Today we're joined by Kyle Krupinski. He's a bioengineer and the co-author of How to Defeat Your Own Clone, and he's going to show you how to find life in pond water with your own homemade microscope with a laser.
So tell us a little bit about how this experiment is going to work. We've got our equipment right here.
Yep.
Just walk us through it.
Well, it's pretty simple. You don't need too much. Basically, to make your own microscope, optical microscopes, all you really need is essentially a lens, a light source, and a sample. And in this experiment, we've actually condensed the lens and the sample into one thing. So what we do is you get a standard laser pointer. This is like a pen laser pointer. Get them on Amazon, get them online. Take a piece of copper wiring and shape it so that it wraps around. We've used a little piece of tape to hold it in place. And the most important part is to make a little loop at the end so that you have a little circle where you can put your sample. And this morning I went out and I grabbed a sample of water from the San Francisco Bay.
Excellent.
So, got it right here. You basically get a little sample.
So basically the same principle as when you're blowing bubbles and you're kind of dipping your wand into the bubble stuff and getting a little layer of the...
Exactly. So the surface tension holds that little bubble in place, essentially. You have a little bubble of fluid there, and that creates its own lens. And within that bubble of fluid, you have all these little microorganisms that you can't see with the naked eye. So when you shine the laser through that bubble, the light gets refracted and it expands that image onto something else. So we can project the image from the laser onto, say, a giant white screen like this.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
So what were we seeing in there?
So mostly we think we're probably seeing a lot of protists and some algae.
So what are protists?
So protists are very small. It's a large group of microorganisms. They could be unicellular, they could be multicellular, and it really encompasses a lot. So it's sort of hard to say exactly what we're looking at. We can't pick it out and say.
That little guy scooting across the screen, you think that was a protist, or?
Most likely. Algae would not be so mobile. You'd see a lot of little circles, which is sort of what we saw, and then we see some swimmers, so you actually see some active organisms swimming around in there.
So what were they swimming with?
They might be swimming with flagella. Some of them move along more like worms, kind of just wriggling their body along. It just depends on the type of organism.
So flagella, could that be considered tiny little tentacles? I'm wondering if we found Cthulhu.
I would consider them to be tiny little tentacles, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like little baby Cthulhu. So just keep in mind, I guess, when you're drinking water, not just from the bay, but anytime, you're probably swallowing some little swimmers like that.
Some little elder gods.
Little protists.
Even in drinking water, you'll see some microorganisms. Obviously, if you pull water out of a pond or a bay, you're going to have a lot more.
Yeah, but you want those. I mean, you need to have a little bit of microorganism in
It's
your
all
body.
about the microbiome.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Kyle, for joining us. Remember, boil all your water before you drink it. And now, a word from our sponsor.